Hello everyone, it has been a while and we are back once again digging another car out of a pile of rubbish. This in particular is a 1975 Toyota Cressida. Depending on where you are in the world, the Toyota Cressida goes by a bunch of different names. In Japan it wasn't even called the Cressida, it was called the Corona Mark II. It was a semi-luxury sedan. It wasn't quite to the level of the Crown, but it was a little bit nicer than the Corona. The MX32 came out of the factory with a somewhat lackluster 4M engine that on a good day would have produced maybe 112 horsepower. It wasn't a particularly heavy car, but even for the time this was a little bit underwhelming. This meant that when it was new, it had stiff competition from the likes of Holden and Ford, and very few of them, realistically, were sold in Australia. This one, though, does not have a 4M engine under the hood, but we'll get to that in a bit. My Cressida has been sitting for quite some time, up next to the fence, with ferns slowly growing around it and rust creeping in on the roof, the sides, the bonnet, pretty much everywhere, although I have gotten lucky and there isn't any actual structural rust anywhere. It mostly seems to have hit the panels, which you can see here. It's covered in leaves and dirt and is probably infested with a variety of interesting and possibly deadly spiders, something that I look forward to discovering with my bare hands later on. In saying all of that, it's in surprisingly good shape considering how neglected it's been. My overall plans are to have it ready for next year's Deloraine Car Show, one of the largest classic car shows in Tasmania. In saying that, of course, it's not in really good enough condition to warrant restoring or bringing back to a state where it would be considered concourse or factory condition. So my plan is to take it and do what would be most kindly referred to as a rat rod style of build. For those who may not know, a rat rod is a customized car where you deliberately create a unfinished kind of appearance. Maybe lacking paint, sometimes showing rust, sometimes you use cheap parts, or sometimes you use parts that no one wants anymore. Rat rods tend to be exaggerated vehicles where you take each element of it and really turn it up to 11. A rat rod may look like a pile of junk at first glance, but much like modern art, it might look ridiculous initially until you start paying attention and start looking at what it is the owner has done and why they've done what they've done. If the Cressida was in better condition, who knows, maybe I wouldn't try and do this. But it's not in great condition, so I guess, in the circumstances, I'll do whatever I want. At the moment, it's missing a lot of things. It's not getting fuel, there is no spark, there is no means to turn the engine over, there's no starter motor, no battery, the electrical system needs to be looked at, the tail shaft is wrong. The rust that it does have, whilst not structural, will prevent it from getting registration. The suspension needs to be looked at. The tyres are old. Pretty much anything you care to look at needs some work. Not all of it is particularly difficult work, but it is work. With all of that said, there are some things that are great. Let's just pop the bonnet and take a quick look at one of the things I'm very happy about. That is a Holden 186. This particular motor was used in a whole bunch of different Holdens over the years. Everything from their day-to-day cars in the form of the Kingswood through to Tiranas, and the high-performance versions were available as well. Whilst it might need a fair bit of work, there is a lot there to work with, and a lot of parts that you can buy to improve them, make them faster, or just to make them drive better and be nicer. Equally, the interior is all in fantastic condition. Yes, the dash is all kinds of cracked and mangled, but we can work with that. The seats look great, the door cards look great, the rear seats look great, although a little bit oily. The only thing I'm not particularly pleased about, which you can kind of see here, is the roof lining is sort of sagging a bit. Another thing I love about old Toyotas are their dashboards. Look at the gauges, look how crisp and clean they were. That and the little bit of chrome really makes them pop. Toyota knew what they were doing in the 70s. So that's the project, that's the overview of what I'm trying to do. Come along with me while we try and get this sorted out and back on the road, because that is the first step.